I've had this idea for a while that whenever an enterprise is looking to undergo some form of digital transformation, digital initiative, whether it's building a website or creating an app, that there are a certain set of principles or building blocks, or maybe even best practices that apply across verticals. The direction, they're not the details of the implementation, they're not the solution design, but they are instructive in terms of the direction and the organization of the process. So I'm putting together a set of videos that review this, that talk about this. And newsflash, this is in software development. There's this idea, there's this way of processing or approaching software development called design patterns. And this is, it's been around for some time. I think sometime during the 90s, a few authors came up with the idea of design patterns and applying them to software development. And it actually came from architecture, actual building of cities and planning. They also had this idea that there's certain patterns or designs that successful cities follow. And so, like in software development, digital marketing is fairly complex. And we all know what a good experience is, what a good digital experience is. We've all been to websites that suck, and we've all been to websites that are good. And we know that when we go to these sites that are good or use these apps that are good, we like it, we trust them, we tend to return. And I think there are certain tangible things that go into this. And my first idea, my first building block, is data early. Maybe you could call it data first. But quite often when you're thinking about, say, for instance, a new website, you're thinking in terms of the visual, the functionality, what it needs to look like. You might even have some wireframes. And it's pretty typical to think in this way. We are human. We want to think about something as tangible as we can. But also a part of that should be, what do we need to know? What is the data that we need for decisions? And so what I see quite often happening, the traditional division between marketing and IT, or IT and marketing, comes to play. IT is thinking about functionality, services, things they need to build to make this new site look like the thing that we want. And they might have also designers who are building CSS and putting in place JavaScript frameworks. And then you have marketers who are thinking about the data and the optimization and the audience. And quite often, these two teams begin the process quite independent of one another for a variety of reasons. And I would argue that they need to be tied at the hip. When I've seen the most successful digital initiatives, I've seen a cross-functional team, call it a steering committee or a guiding coalition. And they meet regularly. And they're made up of folks who are actually overseeing the teams doing the work. And I've always worked in an agile, or at least agile in name, environment where we're building out stories, and stories encapsulate a single piece of functionality. So let's say, for instance, we're talking about a carousel. A story would describe what that carousel is going to do. We wouldn't just assume. If it's also building against an authoring environment, we're asking questions about what should the author be able to add or change about this carousel. Having this cross-functional team address some of these questions in such a way, what it should look like and what should the author create, they should also be asking questions about what should be the data. But too often enterprises just assume that that's going to work itself out later. They don't bring that up front. And I've met with a number of very large companies who all approach this in the same way. They all make the same mistake. And that is, they don't ask the data questions early enough. And they don't include this in their stories of functionality. And why this makes a difference is, we have this process of creating an experience, and that experience informs data. But what goes into that experience is content. Content marketing is the strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing value, relevant and consistent content to attract and retain clearly defined audiences, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. So content is functional, but content is what is going to drive your customer, is going to create an emotional response and drive your customer to what you want them to do. That is to buy something or book a room or engage in more content if you're selling advertising. Understanding the data, understanding the content, and then ultimately the assets that come into play is crucial. And I see this as a workflow, but then also what's informing each of these steps. Metadata informs and describes the assets. Properties quite often are what we call pieces of data in terms of content. The properties could be the name of the page, where the page can be located in a structure or folder system. And then the data is informed by a data layer. And when this workflow goes right, the content creator is able to describe the content and the assets in such a way that the marketer is able to make decisions and optimize on it. And when it doesn't go right, the content creator is not thinking about this entire process. It's almost as if there's a wall that's created. So making sure data is early in the process, maybe not first, but early in the process, I think is crucial. So I hope you like this. I have a few more videos that are going to be on the same line. If you like it, there's a little thumbs up thing. And if you don't like it, if you also hit that thumbs up thing, that would be really cool. Please subscribe. I'd love to get some more subscribers. Yeah, see you next time.